Hello, it's me, an asshole with a mic, coming right back at you with some U.S. history. Now then, you might be wondering where the fuck Chapter 16 went. The answer is I don't give a shit, and if you didn't study it, fuck if I know, because I don't need it, personally. But just a quick recap of Chapter 16, we fucked over the Indians and expanded west with the help of telegraphs and railroads and guns and shit. And we also, put them all on reservations, including the Comanche, the Nez Perce, who were led by Chief Joseph, and the Navajos. Actually, wait. Yeah, the Navajos. And also the Sioux Wars were a thing, and that ended with Wounded Knee. And, there was a Grant Peace Plan and a Dawes Act. It was pretty shitty. We also had railroads and shit. That was pretty crazy. But now, it's on to bigger, better, gold-plated shits. Now we're talking about the Gilded Age. Gilded Age, motherfucker. Not my cup. Ah, shit. Talking about Gilded Age. And so, first off, we're going to talk about all this technology. And for once in your life, you might have to take notes. Because there's a lot of names. A lot of names in this chapter that you kind of need to know. So, might want to get out a quick notepad just to, take down all the important names. So, there's a lot of stuff. Alexander Graham Bell made a telephone. That was pretty fucking cool. Thomas Edison made some cool telegraph shit that let you send messages down multiple messages down a single wire, called a diplex and a quadruplex. And he also made a stock ticker tape machine thing. And then he also made a phonograph and electric lighting, which is pretty crazy. And then this guy named George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla went hey, we found a different current. You could say it's an alternative current. It's called alternating current. Haha. Which was a lot better than the direct current that Edison was using. And he was like, I don't think that'll work. And then they're like, ha, bitch, watch us. And then alternating current became the thing. Yes. And then a guy named Frank J. Sprague, Sprague, made streetcars, which is, better than horse-drawn or steam cars. Because duh. And then Edison took his company, went here's some other electric companies. I'm going to merge with that shit. And he made General Electric. And they also, just started mass-producing shit. Just making all sorts of electric items. And also this guy named George Eastman, made some film that let Edison, make large screen film, which was pretty fucking cool. And this Victor talking machine company made players and discs for that shit. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But Elisha G. Otis made an elevator. This Pratt and Whitney duo made machine tools. This Babcock and Wilcox made steam boilers. And all sorts of other shit, typewriters. There's a lot of new inventions. Over 400,000 patents issued in 30 years. There's a lot of stuff. But then the automobile was invented. Haha. And so this guy named Henry Ford went you know what? I like that interchangeable parts thing. Let's take that to cars. And then he said, well, let's also do this thing. I saw this being used in England and some other places. And he says, wow. It's called the assembly line. And we're going to make it so everybody just does one task. It's pretty boring, but we're going to pay high. Because I want all these people to be able to afford these cars too. I'll make my own market. And so he did. And he made Model Ts, and that was cool. And also the Wright brothers made an airplane. Okay, enough with that. But now, We're talking about all the monopolies. And now you thought that all the businesses controlled everything, but back then they really controlled everything. Wait, does that even make sense? I don't know. But this guy named Jay Cook used to be the most powerful banker in the United States because he saved the union's finances, and he financed railroads and stuff. And then he accidentally fucked up some shit, and he declared bankruptcy, which was kind of bad since he was the biggest banker in the United States of America. He started the Panic of 1873. And so, shitty stuff happened. I mean, it's your general economic bust. Just think of that, and you got it. And it showed off the new boom and bust cycle that would take place with this economy. And then this other guy came in called Cornelius Vanderbilt. He had already built a huge ass steamboat empire, and then he went you know what? Let's go to the railroad industry. And so whenever he went to the railroad industry, he's like, let's manage this shit so trains come on time and don't derail all the time. And he didn't make railroads. He just bought up all the other old railroads and made them better and put managers on that shit. And you think managers are, they're pretty fucking boring, but at that time that was pretty fucking revolutionary. It was innovative. It was the newest innovation. Putting a guy in charge of other guys who were in charge of other guys who were in charge of other guys so that everything ran smoothly. No, it was pretty crazy shit. And then also, these guys named Daniel Drew, Jay Gould, and Jim Fisk, well, they were doing some pretty shady shit. They basically got stuff, sold it, and made away with all the money. And then all the other people that they had just messed with got destroyed, including some stuff involving the gold supply whenever President Grant was a thing. And so there wasn't really anything to stop the rich people from just fucking with the country. So big corporations kind of sucked. And so, but the really big industries were Rockefeller, who did oil, Carnegie, who did steel, and J.P. Morgan, who was basically the bank for the next 50 years or so. It was a long ass time. And so what Rockefeller did, he just started buying up companies, putting them together to make Standard Oil, and he would just keep on buying refineries. And he'd be like, bitch, if you ain't gonna join me, I'm gonna run your ass out of business. And so, this thing was called horizontal integration. Wherever he basically just merged everybody that was all doing the same thing. Making oil. He got it. He just took all that shit. And he combined it all together. And he controlled gasoline, which was needed for cars. And so, he became pretty fucking rich. He's one of the richest people in the world. In America. Then this other guy, Andrew Carnegie, he's this steel thing's pretty damn cool. We're gonna keep all the costs as low as possible. And the worker's what the fuck does that mean? It means I'm not paying you jack shit, bitch. And he controlled everything that had to deal with steel production. So, it was called vertical integration. So, underneath one company, he controlled getting the iron, refining the iron, making the steel, getting the coal to make the steel, making the forges, selling the steel. He controlled every single step along the way to get stuff and make steel. As opposed to Rockefeller, who said, I'm going to get all the oil, and then anybody else can do whatever they want. But I'm going to control the getting the oil business. So, yeah. And so, other steel mill owners were like, ah, man, I got to get profits. But Carnegie was like, we got to get these costs down. Because if these costs are nothing, anything we make will make us rich men. It made him rich. I don't know about anybody else. But, that was the thing. And then this other guy named John Pierpont Morgan made basically the bank. And then after Vanderbilt died, he got himself onto the boards of a lot of important places. And then he basically started controlling all these places. It was like the railroads and like all sorts of stuff. It was pretty crazy. But like he basically controlled everything at some point. And so eventually Europeans went like, hey, the US is kind of fucking up after the 1893 depression. And they started pulling all their gold out of the US banks. And eventually President Cleveland's just like, shit. We're about to be broke. And then JP Morgan's like, hey, buddy. You know, little devil horns appearing over his head. Freaking guy's contract. Burning into existence. Hey, so I see that you're in a little bit of an issue here. And Cleveland's like, I'll never sell my soul to the devil. And JP Morgan's like, you about to be broke in like 3 o'clock. And he's like, alright, I'll sell my soul to the devil. And then JP Morgan basically saved the entire US economy. But also, his bank was the US bank. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. But enough about rich people, let's talk about middle class people. Haha. And so, now, there can be middle class people, and they're doing shit like buying cars and houses in the suburbs and like doing shit like getting Christmas trees. I don't know, man. And then like architects are designing things. They're architecting things. I don't know how that word works. But like, you know, they're building like the mall, Central Park. I don't know if I'm supposed to say these names. I'm gonna skip it. If they're on there, if they're really on there, these fucking random ass architects. Okay, I'm gonna say Frederick Law Olmsted, Olmsted, made Central Park and some other parks, like the Emerald Necklace in Boston and the mall in DC. Okay, and also planners were like, wait, water is actually killing us all by like cholera and shit. Let's make it clean. And so they made like aqueducts so that they could get clean water into the cities, and people, you know, got good water. Bleh. And so, okay, and the textbook, it says that cities here were cleaner, brighter, and faster paced than anything. Well, I mean, I guess they were kind of cleaner, but also still pretty dirty. It was a city. But they did have electric lights, and like streetcars, and railroads, which would connect suburbs to cities. That was pretty cool. Oh yeah, and there's this guy named Dwight L. Moody, who who did another revivalist thing, reviving Christianity in America. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Politics. The Republican Party was split into stalwarts who were like the old people that went like, but like we still kind of fucked over the African Americans and the poor people. And then the other people in the party went like, who gives a shit? We're about to be rich. And so, let's see. Eventually Garfield got elected. Then he got shot. And then Chester A. Arthur followed him. And then people went like, you kind of suck. And then Cleveland as the Democratic nominee ran, and then some Republicans went like, I hate our nominee. I'm gonna go campaign for Grover Cleveland. They were called the Mugwumps. 'Cause, you know, why not? And like people were like, oh shit, that Cleveland, he fathered a child with some young lady. And so one campaign slogan against him was, Mama, where's my pa? And then, yeah, okay, this is all pretty stupid. But, you know, for some reason it's like, no, not expansionist efforts and annexing Hawaii, but also I don't give a shit about African Americans. Haha, I'm a Democrat from the 1800s. Yes. And then he was defeated by Benjamin Harrison, the grandson of that other guy who died of pneumonia. And then he didn't do much, and then Cleveland got reelected. But then he was also reelected during the Panic of 1893, that time when J.P. Morgan controlled the United States. But yeah. There are also missionaries sent out all across the world. That was a thing. That was pretty cool. And also, the U.S. started trading with more people. Like, they opened up Korea and Japan and China. And they also started investing a shit ton in Mexico after, leaving a bunch of weapons for the revolutionaries to overthrow the former French government. And they also became the dominant force in Cuba. And then they also, started being, almost trade warring with, the European powers. But then they didn't. So, yeah. And finally today... How long is this one? 16 minutes? I think we can go through this. And finally today, immigration was a thing. It was crazy. A lot of Russians, a lot of Southern Italians, because, there's these things called pogroms, where, people would go out and be like, where them Jewish peoples? And somebody would be like, I think I'm Jewish. I get stabbed! Because, apparently... the Jews were the cause of all the problems. So it was pretty dumb. So, a lot of people coming over to America. And then the Chinese Exclusion Act was a thing because people in the West went I don't like the Chinese stealing all our jobs. Get them out of here. And then they're like, we can't get them out of here. They're already here. They're American. Well, then keep the rest of them out of here. And so they did. And also, French Canadians moved down here. I don't know why I said that. That was just a thing. And then, and there's also, there's a pull, besides, the rest of the world feeling like shit to the immigrants. There's the pull of the United States is industrializing. They got the, you got the rumors of the high-paying jobs and stuff. It's pretty neat. Yeah. Anyway, so, you know what? I like this story. Because back in the old country, them young, naive immigrants were thinking, oh, yes, the streets of America, they're paved with gold. And then when they got here, they discovered 3 things. 1, they're not paved in gold. 2, they're not paved. 3, you about to pave them. So, yeah, I think that says enough. And then also, they gave a lot of anglicized names to the Europeans, which is kind of stupid. Like, Cooperstein becomes Cooper, Hatama becomes Hansen, Kyriakopoulos becomes Campbell, and then one time, the German's like, I forget. He was like, Ich vergesse. And the clerk's just like, alright, Ferguson, welcome to America. Yeah. That was the thing. Oh yeah, and Ellis and Angel Island's a thing. Ellis Island's where all the people come on the Atlantic, and Angel Island's where all the Asian people pray they can come into the United States because, Chinese Exclusion Act and stuff. I'm pretty sure you remember the lectures. Apartments are fucking terrible. And there's also sweatshops. That's a thing. They line the streets with huge sweatshops of people doing stuff. And also, the melting pot becomes a famous way to describe all of this. Even though it was more like a bunch of people came in and then they just made their own kind of little communities. And everything's all, diverse and shit now. So, yeah. See anything else? Everybody makes their own communities. Because, you want to be with the people you know. And yeah. Cool. The Gilded Age. It's a gold-covered shit filled with industrialization, big business controlling everything, and poor immigrants coming from everywhere else. Have fun and shit.